Okay, take three. So, Mr. K is at it again. He's a right winger that I knew back when I was younger, back in my high school days. And on social media, he posts a bunch of crap that I debunk on the regular. And this week is no different. He posted a right wing meme on Facebook that is just stupid. So we're looking at facts versus outrage once again, and this time he's presenting a false binary between somebody named Eden Alexander and Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So the meme he posted says Eden Alexander is still being held by Hamas terrorists. He's an American from New Jersey. So you might be thinking already, well, what does that have to do with Kilmer Abrego Garcia? Well, you would be right to question that because it's a false binary. It really has nothing to do. I mean, not to say that the story of Eden Alexander has nothing of interest, but they're two different topics largely. But anyway, you know, after pointing out that Eden Alexander is still being held by Hamas terrorists and he's an American from New Jersey, the meme that Mr. K posted says, meanwhile, Democrats do wellness checks on foreign country gang members. That's most likely referring to Kilmer Brego Garcia. And that's a ridiculous false binary right off the start, right? I mean, it's a comparison that just doesn't really connect the dots. And there's an additional comment in the meme's notes. It says, set him free, vote anyone out that does not put Americans first. Well, that's a little bit peculiar because I don't think there are that many Americans who are like, yes, let's have Hamas keep this Eden Alexander hostage. I don't think there are that many Americans out there, left, right, or center, who are like, yeah, I want him to be held hostage. You probably struggle to find anybody who's really that on board with it. It's not going to be the hill that they're going to die on. And ironically, the meme is by Bikers for Trump. It's an irony that bikers, posted this because they have a reputation as gang members. This this meme is bashing somebody for allegedly being a gang member. I think I just did a Freudian slip. I called bikers gay members, but no, they just like to wear leather a lot of the time. But there's nothing stereotypically homoerotic about wearing leather. Um, it's trying to look like a badass on my motorcycle. Ugh. So anyway, some of you probably wondering where I'm going with that, but I'll set that aside for now. So again, there's fake outrage here, and there's facts versus outrage, the false binary between Eden Alexander versus Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So, what is Kilmar Abrego Garcia's background? So, he is a Salvadoran national who entered the U.S. as a teenager, I believe in 2011, fleeing gang threats. And in 2019, he was detained based on unverified allegations of MS-13 affiliation, primarily due to his attire and an anonymous informant's claim. No criminal charges were filed against him, and an immigration judge granted him protection from deportation due to credible threats he faced in El Salvador. He lived in Maryland with his U.S. citizen wife and children. He complied with ICE check ins and worked legally. So, what's the problem then? Well, that there would be no problem if it wasn't for a certain orange tinted loon who is gracing the halls of the White House. So, anyways, NBC News notes Abrego Garcia was arrested in March 2019 in a Home Depot parking lot with three other men for loitering. So keep in mind, this is somebody who was essentially kidnapped and put into a prison for life, allegedly perhaps based on a loitering charge. And there are other people who say, well, I think he has some gang tattoos, or he was wearing his hat in a style similar to a gang. Well, I'm pretty sure you don't get life sentences for wearing your hat in a certain way or having tattoos. I think that simple point is often getting lost in this whole discussion here. But anyway, NBC News continues in their article. His attorneys said he was there looking for day labor work. Police assessed that he was a gang member at the time, according to arrest documents. He had no criminal record at the time, which the documents also state. So keep in mind, no criminal record, no criminal record, yet he's being put in a prison for life, at least if these right wing lunatics have their way. So after his 2019 arrest, Abrego Garcia was handed over to immigration authorities and placed in deportation proceedings. So that did happen. That did happen. But the article continues. Before his 2019 hearing, authorities told the court that their evidence of Abrego Garcia's gang membership was limited to the gang field interview sheet from the Home Depot arrest, and they had nothing further to add. So they've admitted they lack evidence this entire time, you know? And the article continues: an immigration judge barred Abrego Garcia from being sent to El Salvador. A big point to remember here: he was supposed to be barred from being sent there. And they were saying he proved he had a well-founded fear of future persecution from local gangs. The court granted withholding of removal as long as he checked in with authorities annually, something he attested to doing in court filings. This gave him legal status in the United States temporarily and allowed him to receive a work permit. ICE did not appeal, and Abrego Garcia was released. He returned to his family, where he resumed working and began a 5-year apprenticeship program to become a licensed journeyman. And if you don't know what a journeyman is, that's fine. I had to look it up myself, and it just means an apprentice, which is what I heard he was. But I just wanted to double check. It's one of those words that I probably did know what it meant, but it just wasn't really read. It wasn't clicking in my mind at the time, so I just went ahead and double check. And I encourage you to do that as well. Do some fact checking, even if you feel kind of dumb for looking up a word that you already think you know. There's really no great shame in still looking the word up anyway. It might reinforce what you thought the word meant, and of course, it can also lead you to better understand what it actually means and the different contexts that it can be applied in. But anyway, I'm getting a little sidetracked with that. Um, so, what about his deportation and current status? Well, for one thing, it's not really a deportation. He was essentially kidnapped. They they just overlooked the whole due process thing. The judge's order, you know, denying the right to deport him. So it was essentially a kidnapping, and they put him into this prison where he's supposed to be there for life. According to the Trump administration. So, despite the legal protection, Abrego Garcia was, mistakenly kidnapped to El Salvador in March 2025, an action the Trump administration later acknowledged as an administrative error. So they initially agreed that it was an error. That's something that you also need to keep in mind here. He's currently imprisoned in El Salvador's CCOT facility without trial. A Maryland politician went to visit him. I don't remember his name offhand. So they did verify that he's actually still alive, or at least was alive at the time that he was, visited by that politician. But there's a reason people were fearing, because this CCOT facility, it's it's a deliberate hellhole. You know, they just cram all these people, like it can be like tens, maybe even up to 100 or more into a cell. And you know there are reports of human rights abuses, uh, people having scarce access to food and drink and all that kind of stuff. So it's a rough place, to say the least. The US Supreme Court ruled the deportation illegal and ordered corrective action. So think about that. And it was a unanimous verdict, 9-0. Even Clarence Thomas was in agreement that he should not have been kidnapped and brought over there. But the administration resisted, citing jurisdictional constraints. And that's the game they're playing. They're saying that because we whisked him off to this El Salvadoran prison, we no longer have this jurisdictional need to return him. So that was intentional. They were intentionally doing that to mess with the law here. And I think people are pretty well aware of that, and they're sick of it. A lot of people want the due process to actually go through, and they want the judges to be listened to, etc., etc. So, what about the allegations of gang affiliation? What about that? The government's claims of Abrego Garcia's gang membership are based on tenuous evidence, including, again, his clothing and that uncorroborated informant statement. There's no concrete proof or criminal convictions that should merit a life sentence. You know, that none of the allegations have had any significant evidence whatsoever, but they still sent him away. And moreover, a conservative federal judge criticized the administration's actions as a violation of due process. And, good for that judge, because that's exactly what these are. So, all right, now that that's out of the way, what about the comparison, the just stupid comparison with the Eden Alexander case? So, admittedly, Eden Alexander's name is less well known, but he is an American Israeli citizen believed to be held hostage by Hamas. The U.S. government has been actively working to secure the release of American hostage, or so they say, and that would be including Alexander. But comparing his situation to Abrego Garcia's kidnapping is a false equivalence, as the former involves international hostage negotiations, while the latter pertains to domestic immigration enforcement errors. Or, I suppose you could say, in a way, he is being held hostage, but the comparison is still off, because, on the one hand, they're trying to justify one instance of holding somebody hostage, and in the other, they're saying it needs to be condemned. Well, hold on a second. Do we like the ability to hold people hostage or not? You know, do you like being able to just not follow laws or rules and just hold somebody hostage, kidnap them off the street or whatever, and hold them under horrific conditions, most likely? Or do you not want to be able to do that? Because, I mean, that's the thing about this meme. It debunks itself. It's like they're admitting that they have a hypocritical double standard here, because on the one hand they like somebody being held hostage in this one case, and in the other they object to it. So there's also irony in the source. Like I mentioned, the meme originates from Bikers for Trump, a group associated with motorcycle enthusiasts. And it's worth noting that some biker groups have been linked to criminal activities, including drug trafficking and violence. So, using such a platform to criticize alleged gang affiliations elsewhere is pretty significantly ironic. I mean, again, it's like the meme was intended to debunk itself, because here you're talking about somebody who had not non-existent ties to a gang, or at least, you know, no ties that could be proven in a court, and it's being presented by a, an organization of bikers, and bikers could face similar allegations of participating in illegal activities. So it's like the short-sightedness here is off the charts. So the meme in question misrepresents the facts surrounding Kilmar Abrego Garcia's kidnapping, and unjustly compares it to the unrelated case of Eden Alexander. You know, it's a it's a ridiculous comparison. So if you want further reading on Kilmar Abrego Garcia's kidnapping, you could look at the Guardian. They wrote an article called "Who is Kilmar Abrego Garcia? The man wrongly deported to El Salvador." Time magazine did something on it called "The Trump Administration Could Have Fought to Deport Abrego Garcia in 2019. It passed on the chance." So that's another thing you got to take into account. He was actually complying with everything that ICE was asking him to do. He was complying this entire time. It's like he was trying to turn his life around, um, trying to improve his situation. He was doing everything the right way, basically almost like a storybook uh, version of an immigrant who's trying to improve his life. He came from obviously not a perfect situation, but he was doing his best. I mean, presumably, he was working at a job. He had you know a lot of typical things going on. I'm not saying the dude was perfect. That doesn't have to be said here. But it's almost like they're just trying to ruin this person just because of where he was originally from. It's almost like they're bigoted. But anyway, another source would be Politico. They have a piece called "Conservative Judge Blasts Trump Administration's Shocking Conduct in Abrego Garcia Case." And, well, that about wraps it up. I don't think I have much more to add here. I'll just kind of end abruptly, and I'll just say don't fall for this type of uh, nonsense meme.